healthcare is never going to go out right from the market. So healthcare will always be required.
Do you think all the cancers that exist right now can be cured with AI and machine learning one day?
AI and machine learning will act as a catalyst to make it faster, to make it on time, so that that patient can survive.
Why healthcare hacks are most expensive? Right now in the US, one of the world's most expensive cybersecurity hack is of United Healthcare. Their data was stolen, users credit card information plus healthcare information is there. Why it is so important? How can students get started with AI right now, especially in healthcare? So hello everyone, AI is taking the next buzz level in the US after Stargate $500 billion announcement, lot of data centers investments coming in, and no one is talking about how big impact it's going to be in healthcare. Today we have a healthcare AI engineer who's going to break down the career in it. इन्होंने मुझे बताया कि especially in healthcare, if you want to think about career, first of all, 250,000 opportunities are right now available. So 250,000 jobs in the world or in the US?
In the world, actually.
Really?
Yes.
That many healthcare AI opportunities. That is insane. And at the same time, how much time AI is saving, it's next level. I see a lot of agents deployed are saving 30 hours to 40 hours, one employee with just handling emails. And you will not believe that the applications coming in AI are next level. Google DeepMind.
So Google DeepMind, they are actually reconstructing, I think, these protein structures that can help. Even NVIDIA has done a similar thing where they are generating these protein structures that helps, stop or prevention of these various cancer. I think they have done mostly on the breast cancer.
First of all, hi Dibyadip, can you please introduce yourself?
So I'm a healthcare data scientist. I have now 10 years of experience in healthcare, and I have been mostly in the US healthcare side, and I am working in a multinational company across teams from India as well as in US. So I moved to US in 2023 to our US team here and in Atlanta, and it's been a nice journey actually to learn both the worlds, like the world of healthcare as well as the world of technology together, and it's been an amazing journey.
How did you get into this industry? If you had to summarize you coming to the US as an AI expert in healthcare, how did it happen?
So I was already in this industry when I was in India.
The undergrad ki Pune mein?
Yeah, no. I did my undergrads in University of Calcutta. And then I did my masters from University of Pune.
I see. So, किसमें आपने expertise की थी masters?
So, masters in computer science.
Computer science?
Yes.
Okay, so then the first job you got was in healthcare itself?
No, the first job I got was in security, surveillance, cameras and surveillance. So that was my first job. I was working with images already before even I joined healthcare. So then as I joined healthcare, I was more working towards various type of medical imaging, as well as I worked on EHRs and EMRs. I started working on these, and that's where I started knowing the whole US healthcare system, right? So today, if you ask me the transition, it would be mostly I started my career as a .NET developer. Then I converted into a .NET image developer, wherein I was only working with images, and then I transformed myself into a healthcare professional when I got opportunity with my company 10 years back, and I thought to myself, this is motivationally, financially, I am really happy with what I do today and how I'm impacting lives of thousands of people and millions of people across the globe. So that makes me motivated.
Excellent. And especially we will talk about credit history as well. You came to the US with zero credit history,
yes.
And within 1 year you got the best credit cards, which I got cancelled
for
even though I am in the US for 4 years. We'll talk about that later. But now coming back to healthcare, why not a lot of people are talking about it other than Google DeepMind? I just see Google DeepMind and NVIDIA that you mentioned are building cool stuff with AI. Where are other opportunities we don't get to know?
So what I feel is that when it comes to healthcare, one is that the number of companies are a little bit less than the technology companies which are available today in the market. But also what I feel is that mostly when I ask someone where they want to see themselves, they want to always land into some big companies, and most of these healthcare companies are not that big as the technology companies. So I feel that exposure of these healthcare companies are not that, not that broad than as compared to these technology companies. That's one of the things. People like you can motivate the younger generations, right, wherein they can go ahead and start, creating something new, something from scratch. A very good example is that today, if you see, there are many open source softwares and open source, projects that are available in GitHub, that one can pick it up and, start contributing towards it. That is one way of learning and getting into this whole healthcare thing. The second thing is like how you want to, read about, or gain more knowledge about the domain. So the domain side of the things, I think it comes over the eventually over, like as you keep on working on it. So I work mostly on the cancer domain, so I am like totally focused on that. But I think there are more opportunities. So I have recently come across a project called as Leaf, wherein they are trying to build an artificial pancreas.
Wow.
So if you combine a glucometer with a insulin pump, you can eventually build an artificial pancreas.
Oh my
So
God.
just you need that algorithm to be in place. Okay. So and people are doing it. Although I should not say this is not like an FDA approved thing or to make to, so but it's an open source thing, like, so it's all about the idea basically. So as soon as you start building on these ideas, you eventually end up getting into the healthcare data science sector, right?
100%. You said like it's almost a recession-proof market right now.
Yes.
Because there are less competitors. You said like, for example, in healthcare we talk about competitors like Johnson and Johnson. I don't know any other company which makes baby powder other than Johnson Johnson. But for phones we can name hundreds.
Yes, exactly. Healthcare is never going to go out, right, from the market. So healthcare will always be required. So it is, I won't say, it is the least that is going to get affected by recession. Like, let me put it in that way. So first of all, like there is the number of competitors are less, and one can just see if you visit any grocery store, you go to any section wherein they sell some medical devices, you will see like the same device is being sold by how many competitors. Just taking example of a baby powder maybe, or maybe example of a thermometer, right? So you will not see many companies like you see in mobile phones or other technology sector, right? And also the thing is that I would say that the healthcare companies are like the least amount of, like, they are going to get affected by the recession, like whenever it comes, or God forbid it never comes.
So right now आपने बताया कि there are a lot of companies creating artificial pancreas. So what you are doing, what domain knowledge you have related to AI and healthcare?
So when it comes to healthcare data scientist, the expectation is that they know a little bit of the domain as well as they know about the technology. Now, the domain is important because it helps us to seemingly merge or converse with doctors and clinicians and people who work in the hospitals. And that is also one thing, like wherein you need to know the domain. The other thing is that you need to also know the technology side of the things, like the emerging technologies, like the large language models, which are being, every day a new model comes up nowadays. So yes, you need to be aware of that too as well. The major thing that we do in one single word is that we reduce the workload, or we try to simplify the daily work of these doctors and clinicians, right? So for example, if I talk about an oncologist, right? So every day they have to diagnose a patient, they have to come up with a treatment plan, and that could be like either it can be a chemotherapy related type of a plan where in medical oncology is being used, or it could be like a radiation oncology where radiation doses are given. Okay. And now or it could be something like immunotherapy, right, wherein or it could be like a surgical therapy, right, where a surgery is required for that treatment. But to create these plans, there are a lot of steps which are involved. So what we try to do is to simplify such things in the hospital. Or it could be like a simple uh, allocation of beds in the hospital, right? That it could be like a very simple thing, but to understand like what would be the most efficient way of allocating that could be like a use case, right? And the one that I already mentioned about the artificial pancreas is also like one of very good use case in healthcare. And this is the daily work that we do as a healthcare data professional or healthcare data scientist.
So ultimate goal is to reduce the time and money spent and also increase of efficiency for doctors and hospitals.
So I think the major motivating factor beyond that is to save as much as lives as possible, because you cannot compare money with lives. Okay.
Oh, and at the same time, like lifespan is also increasing.
Absolutely.
Like, people, for example, Brian Johnson is the biggest example. He's famous on YouTube, famous on Netflix after his show that he's more than 50 years old but looks like 20s.
So I think one of the most motivating factor here is that the algorithm that you make, let's say you are able to start the treatment, like even if like 3 days before, it could be like life changing for that one single patient, especially when it comes to cancer, right? So if your algorithm is efficient, to make that decision, then it could be like life changing for that organization, for that hospital, for that person who has been, or for that team, right, who has been working into it. So it's basically how we see life.
One day, if you start the process in healthcare, if the diagnostic report comes one day advanced thanks to AI, a life can be saved.
Absolutely.
Lifespan can be increased, lives can be saved.
And COVID is a very big example of it, right? So people who were like, early diagnosed, they were able to, treat themselves, and they had a better chance of survivability than others, right? So COVID has significantly increased, I would say, the need for the data scientists. And back in those days, I think the data scientists were like the heroes, right? Building these algorithms daily, detecting all of these various, imaging, like decoding the images to identify whether there is COVID or not, right? So
100%.
like they were the superheroes back then.
100%. So now moving on further deeper down into this. So like bahar se lag raha hai ki like you play with the data and you play with the technologies advancement. So there is like two layers what I see. One is that you can handle the data side of patients and understand their data, have causations and correlations, and okay, this person may have a cancer, may have something such as like a chronic disease because he has like asthma, asthma, like in India we say. So asthma, asthma, and then compounded with other diseases. So that person is prone to this cancer. That is one side of data scientists. Other data scientists are they build stuff, for example, creating artificial pancreas. So which has more scope right now? And what do you do?
So I think both has its own strengths and weaknesses. All you need is a platform where you can showcase all of these things. As long as you have a platform and you have a strong use case, I feel any healthcare, machine learning model or any healthcare machine learning use case will always shine, because it is for the good of the people, right? So here, I think it's more than the money, it's the lives that you are touching, okay? And that's where I feel that it is very important for any healthcare professionals. Like that is the motivation basically that would drive them towards doing it. But at this point, both have their own strengths and weaknesses. All you need to you need a stage to just focus that or to present that idea to everyone.
100%. Yeah, I saw at Georgia Tech Hackathon, I was judging too, like amazing project which like of an MRI image converts into a readable form. Some poor hardware image which is from like 20 years old. Now recent hardware shows it clearly. Like, jo minor, if you have like small discrepancy in your MRI report, you can tell. And with technology, with AI, we can train a model and it can figure out. So my question is here that what side of domain you are in right now?
So basically, if you look at like healthcare data scientists, they work with usually 3 types of data. The one being the electronic medical records. So the EMRs basically. Mm-hmm. So you come out of a doctor's office, so they'll start writing some prescription and summaries and all of this. So this is what the EMR data is. The second type of data is the machine data, right, which is the DICOM data basically. The MRIs and the CT machines or the X-ray machines, so they use the DICOM data. The difference between these two type of data is that DICOM is very structured. So because it is used by the machine, so they are already structured and you don't need much of transformations. When it comes to manually, you need to look into them and transform it. So it is less in case of the DICOM data, whereas in form of EMR data, it is much more because it is entered by humans, okay, like doctors and other nurses and all. So in that case, right, so people have their own behavior. Like some people like to type, some doctors may like to type, some doctors may like to take notes on a paper and then take a screenshot of it and upload it into the EMR system. And
EMR stands for?
Electronic medical record.
Okay.
Yes. And also they can also they may take directly notes on the iPads. Sometimes I've seen doctors directly taking notes on the iPad. Okay. And maybe later they just interpret them or convert them into text. But there you see lot of these free text things or image processing things that are required. Also you see image processing when it comes to mainstream images like MRIs and CTs. That's a totally different story altogether. But here you see the use of large language model way more in the EMR than in DICOM, you will see.
I see.
Yeah, because there is lot of free text that gets entered into the EMR.
So one is like analyzing text.
There is one more. So these are the first is the EMR data, the DICOM data, and the genomics data basically.
Genomics, what is that?
So the one that talks about how the genes or the DNA structures are made, right, using different forms of genes. So I am not aware of genomics much, but I know that's one of the areas where AI is making a very big contribution in today's world.
Okay, so now my question here is since you're using a lot of data, real patients' data, and there are privacy concerns then.
Yes.
There's a lot of privacy rules.
Lot. So the privacy is a very big concern, and I would put that into three again perspective. The first one being the laws, the second one being the acts, and the third one being what we ensure as a data scientist or as a data engineer. Okay, so we have these different data privacy laws, and the CCPA, which is California Consumer Privacy Act, is for the US, and similar law we have for the Europe, which is the GDPR law. Yes, the GDPR again. So these laws prohibits data to be shared across borders. Okay, any type of patient data
across
borders,
like country
borders. Yes.
Oh.
GDPR is for the Europe, whereas CCPA is for the US. US also has something called as HIPAA, which is Health Insurance Accountability and Portability Act, which is like every medical device or medical software any company builds in US, they have to be HIPAA compliant. So that is the reason you might hear this term much often here in US. And HIPAA is something that promises that your all the patient data is stored securely and safely, right? And it is not prone to hacking, or tomorrow nobody can hack those data out of the system. So that is the act part of the things. Now, what we do as a data scientist or as a healthcare data professional is that we also look into the PHI of the data. Okay, so that is the most important part when it comes to privacy. So there are 18 such parameters which defines PHI, protected health information. So the protected health information is something that we have to take into consideration being a data healthcare data scientist, and it is very important how we use this information or how we interpret this information at various stages of the machine learning. So it could be that the data source from where you are getting the data, they may say that you don't use any of the PHI. We don't want to let you use the PHI. So then you have to filter these PHI out and anonymize or de-identify the data in that case before you can make use of any commercial purpose, or you can use this for your algorithm.
I see. So the goal is here that whatever data you collect and use, it should be valid with the regulations they have.
Not with the regulations, with the country regulations, with your company regulations and what you feel as a data scientist. So you also are responsible equally for everything that you do, right, with these patients, because you're dealing with patient data. So the country, the organization, and you, all three of them are responsible for what you do with that data.
And you have to analyze without actually looking at the data.
No, you can look at the data. So the thing is that I will give you an example. So let's say you're looking at a diabetic patient, okay? So you know that the diabetic patient is of 50 years old, is a male, and the rest of the things are not relevant to you. The name, race, gender. Maybe the race matters sometimes in when it comes to demographics. But the thing is that these parameters states that the dates have to be shifted. So if the original date of birth is maybe on 1970 or something like that, you have to shift the year by 1 or 2. That does not make a difference for the model, but that helps to anonymize that person.
I see. But why healthcare hacks are most expensive? Right now in the US, one of the world's most expensive cybersecurity hack is of United Healthcare. Their data was stolen, users credit card information plus healthcare information is there. Why it is so important?
So a person's healthcare data contains a lot of information using which you can I don't want to go into the stuff where it basically you can do social engineering, right, with the healthcare data.
Really, how?
So a healthcare data contains information about the person's insurance, right, based on which you can identify or understand how wealthy or how poor that person is, right, the type of insurance they have. So that is also one of the parameters which I feel. Then you can actually get the addresses and the physical mailing address or email address. A lot of credit card information is also stored, right, in these healthcare databases. So financial information is there, then your health information is there. So all of these are very vital information that is very valuable. It cannot be termed with money also sometimes. So basically when you see that a phone or look, anywhere, right, you are given something free, that means you are the data. So when anybody is giving you any free service, that means is taking the data out of your, so that is the most valuable thing which you are selling.
100%. When with machine learning algorithms, they become more valuable just because of the data they have. Grok AI, it is valuable because the data in X, Twitter, is so good, and the model becomes so valuable. Same with Google's Gemini, Claude, and the good data you give, especially Claude gives so good software engineering data, it's the best coder model. So I get it now. And the social engineering and the hacks they can, for example,
it can be devastating for a person.
100%. For example, someone's family get a call कि आपके बेटे को ये हुआ है.
Exactly.
So it's so scary. They can engineer your kid has so and so problem, and they can blackmail you for money.
Correct.
100%. So what are the challenges of cleaning and processing a healthcare data?
The healthcare data that you see out there in Kaggle or any other websites, they are already pre-processed. So it is when in colleges, right, how you are given a data set and how they used to tell you, okay, now you write a Python code and now you write using the Titanic database, let's say. So the data that we get in these websites or in usually that are free of cost, so they are already transformed and they are at a very high level. Then the data that we actually see in the hospital. So the hospital data is a very raw data, and we have to use lot of methods, like statistical methods as well as methods like EDAs, right? Exploratory data analysis is something very crucial for us, specifically with the subject matter experts. So that makes a lot of difference during the cleaning process. And we constantly have to talk to the hospitals or maybe from where the data has come from, to understand and totally know about what data we are working on. So cleaning the data is a very big challenge. So I would say out of 100% of the time, 80% of the time, or maybe more than 80%, we will just spend on cleaning the data. It is so crucial, and it is so like important.
Example, batana, like where like data is like not cleaned, like which
So
values?
I basically it is again, if you look at these EMR systems, right, how they are, how the data is being captured, right? So doctors can capture data anywhere, like in their summary notes, they can capture in the actual, the the form, right, which is there for the doctor to fill it out. So it can be like within the form, it can be a discrete data that will be going to a database table. That can be, it can be like this, or it could be like a free text where doctor is just typing a note, right? So now converting that unstructured data into a structured form is where we have to clean the data, right? And it has to be, properly processed. I'll give you a very good example. So let's say you're working on a breast cancer data set, okay? So where you have records for 20 patients, and the gender column is missing. So you are filling it out, okay? Some of the gender column is missing. So by statistical methods, if you go by any of the statistical methods, most probably you will end up having the gender marked as female. But that does not necessarily mean that always a patient like a male cannot have a breast cancer. Males also do have a breast cancer.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it is a combination of both statistical methods as well as the EDAs, exploratory data analysis, that one has to use in healthcare in order to come up with a cleaner data, or actually process the data well.
That is fascinating. So that's why the goal comes structuring it. For example, maybe creating a SQL database out of it. For example, making like Excel sheets the way you want. What's the common form you use? Like Postgres is a common database for RAG applications. There is also like NoSQL. What kind of data?
So it differs from companies to companies, like what type of data they would want to have for the development purpose. But in the hospitals, usually we do see the data stored into a PACS. So PACS is a picture archiving and communication system. So basically, like all the pictures that like a hospital takes, like all the machines, right? So they are ultimately stored into a PACS server. So most of them will have a PACS system from where you will get all the imaging data, and for the application data, like that depends on the company, right? How they want to store. Sometimes they would store it on an SQL server. Sometimes it could be like a cloud-based environment. So that totally depends on the company, right? How they are building their softwares.
100%. And here with the data, which algorithms, large language models are most efficient with the data related to healthcare?
So I would, like, if you asked me this question 3 years back, I would say none. When OpenAI came up with their Chat GPT, okay, or maybe the older versions of OpenAI models. So as we are progressing, right, it has become evident that medical data is also equally important. So we see that the latest models, like the Gemini, the latest Gemini, as well as the GPT 4o or the O1, basically, are quite capable of answering very niche medical domain related questions.
Wow.
Okay. But if you ask me, like, where should I start from scratch, like if I really want to start somewhere, so I would say that BERT was really popularized by Google.
BERT, the
BERT transformer
in which like zeros and ones were there. The handwritten text to image, right?
That
handwritten
was
text detection.
That was one of the use cases, but BERT had like many use cases later on. So people just started using BERT in every possible ways. So one of the very good BERT example is BioBERT. So anybody who is currently working or who wants to build their career, they can start, if they want to tinker around the healthcare data and the natural language processing, like if they want to combine these two areas or want to do something, maybe BioBERT is a very good to start.
What does BioBERT do?
So BioBERT is a flavor of BERT. It is an open source transformer model that can be easily found in Hugging Face. So you can download it and use it according to your own need. So you can use for like question answering, or you can use to create cohorts of the data. Okay. So you can use for multiple purposes, and it is open source. You can actually read the paper, the bird paper is open, like it is, you can just search in Google and you can read the bird paper. It's really, really fascinating, right? How transformers has evolved to large language models today. Okay, and still it is like it is one of the most useful, I would say, today, because it was trained on clinical trials, and lot of these papers, right, the medical journals and the medical these research papers, right? So it was trained on that, so it knows the domain very well. Yeah.
I see. Amazing. So it was a chatbot before OpenAI for healthcare.
Yeah.
Amazing. So the models you say work really well are like O1 and they answer healthcare questions. My question here will be that that's for the user case. How does, for a healthcare profession, these LLMs help out? Like आप customer को deploy थोड़ी कर सकते हो. Customer, you basically a healthcare attaching a large language model to be used by customers. It could be a blunder. Like if a wrong recommendation is like given to
absolutely
a patient.
So today, like if you ask me, healthcare is one of those sectors where everything would be adopted at the very end. Because here, if you look at a mindset of a healthcare data scientist, it will be like, we give more priority to recall than precision, right?
Recall matlab?
So
recall precision, can you elaborate?
So I'll give you an example. Okay, if you are working towards predicting a diabetes, okay, so let's say you're predicting someone is diabetic or not based on the data, the medical information you have, and you make a very precise, a very good model. Okay, so out of that 100% of the time, you are predicting like 99% correct, accurately. Okay, that okay, you are diabetic, you are not diabetic. Okay, but let's say that one case where you said, like where the model said that the patient is not diabetic, which is a false positive. Okay, so if you make that false positive and that person goes back to the home and start eating lots of sweets, then that person might end up having some type of organ failure. Maybe like their eyes could get affected or the kidneys could get affected, right?
Because currently false positive cases,
you cannot have false positives in healthcare.
Zero.
So that like ideally it should be zero before it is like tested on an actual health on an actual use case. So and probably like you can have a better you can have a narration, you can put a narration, you can just search this, okay, that why recall should be more than a precision in healthcare. You'll get a very good answer for any of these large language models today, right? Just ask GPT, just ask Gemini, anybody, like you'll get a very good answer. Like I'm not able to put it into perspective, but right now, as I said, I have given an example, so you should be like getting my point, right? Why
100%.
Why recall should be more than precision.
100%. So how does LLMs accelerate healthcare industry?
So as of today, I would say that LLMs are not not that much being used for external people to use, like for the consumers or for the or even if they are being used, they are used in a very controlled way. Okay, because as you said, right, giving that opportunity to the end users might lead to misinformation. So it has to be like either it has to be a use case where you are very constrained about what knowledge you want to share with your users. So it could be like converting like a set of procedures. Okay, so you are helping that professional or that technician, right, to set up some machine. So it could be a set of procedures that can be converted into a some type of a Q&A or a chatbot or something like that. Okay, so it could be something like that, like which is very controlled. So as of now, I don't see a use case wherein you can give an uncontrolled and you can replace a doctor stating that okay, you can now ask anything to this and that replaces a doctor. That's not going to be possible in at least like 5-10 years.
I see. So there are limited use cases.
Very limited use cases, and internally, mostly it is used internally. So maybe for doing certain type of sorting or certain type of information displaying, it could be for that. or it could be for very limited use case, I would say.
I see. So the main goal of AI data centers is like using the healthcare data and building own algorithms specifically for healthcare, like creating
Yes.
pancreas and organs, you said. And on top of that, the goal is to create custom healthcare specific models,
Yes.
which have like,
So there are many proprietary models that every companies will have in their own, which will never come out to the public, right?
really they will not
Yeah.
publish papers like other.
No, they might publish papers. So I have seen papers from like from Google, right? So you will see papers, but there will be like a lot more going inside these healthcare softwares, right? We don't know what is going today. So there are so many teams across the world working on AI, right? But large language model, I think it still is in its beginning stage. It has to like evolve more. It has gone to a point where it has started giving out answers related to healthcare, but still I think there is way to go for it to become a mainstream use case, right, in healthcare.
So here a big question would be like, all the biggest application we see is like Apple Watch, like all the healthcare devices we see right now, right? So they are developed by technological companies collaborating with healthcare companies.
Yes.
And here people forget how valuable healthcare companies are collaborating with technology. So how is that collaboration going behind the scenes, and why tech leads the innovation for products? For example, Apple Watch and other like Whoop is like another healthcare,
Yes.
not healthcare companies directly building tech products.
So if you see tech products that are directly a consumer product, more of like a consumer-based product. So it is for me, not for the doctors. The healthcare companies, what they make are for the doctors and the hospital, professionals or the clinicians, basically. So there is a difference between these type of products and the hospital machines that are there, right? So you cannot compare an Apple Watch with a CT machine, or you cannot compare an Apple Watch's heart rate sensor with a echocardiogram's heart rate sensor, right? So that will be like a totally different comparison altogether, right? So you cannot compare at all. So they have their own set of use cases. Data is a common ground here, but the motivation is not common. So the motivation for them is to treat people, and the motivation for here is to keep myself healthy.
Okay, so now if you have to create a roadmap, if you have to start your journey again in AI and healthcare, how can students get started with AI right now, especially in healthcare?
So first of all, like for students, it is very easy, I would say, because they are learning and they are already in this journey of seeing new things and learning new things. So they'll be easily able to understand and grasp these things, and also they are open to apply for positions like internships and all, right? So it will be like easy for the freshers, I would say, to get into the game much easily than for a very experienced person who wants to apply for a very high position in a healthcare company. So I think for the students it is like very easy, so they can just go ahead and apply if they have that motivation towards making impacting lives of millions of people or thousands of people across the world, and not targeting a subset of people with these technology companies or financial companies, right? So they are targeting a subset of people, but here there is no country, no race, no gender, right? You are basically directly influencing millions of people across the world. So if you have that mindset, I think you can start applying for these internships right away. So it does not need anything. And if you really want to have something on your plate, GitHub is a very good place to start. So there would be a lot of these use cases. One which I already said about the artificial pancreas, right? One can go through these, what is going on today in healthcare. Lot of use cases are there. So and you just need to have a background in machine learning to just start your career. So if you have that background in machine learning and Python, so you are already done you are already 50% ahead of the others. So if you are already into the machine learning space, It's just a matter of time. You just go ahead and apply, because over time you will gradually get the domain knowledge, right? Wherever or whichever area you work with.
So just like basic stuff जो हर कोई बताता है, like Python and having a little bit of R and SQL, that is good enough.
Yes.
And if you have to go into domain specific, especially let's say someone is applying for Anthem. Anthem is a popular company, United Healthcare. They're getting there. So how does like an interview look like? How deep they get into the skills?
So it depends on what profession or which part of the or which area you're applying for. So, for example, if I'm applying for something related to cancer research, so I must be knowing like something about what cancer is and how they are, or what type of data that correlates to cancer.
So, okay. So you need to do homework related to which industry. You have to narrow it down.
Yes, but I don't think that is true for interns, because I feel like for interns it's like a blank slate. So, however, like like they want to build their career, they can go into that direction. Okay, so I don't feel like that for freshers and interns it matters that much having that domain knowledge, but it's always good to have that. So if you have done some projects, if you can show something that you have done on GitHub, or maybe you have even participated in some of the Kaggle competitions, that will make a lot of difference for these companies.
Excellent. Especially to stand out in the crowd, you need the best projects in healthcare, AI. What would you build right now if you had to build at hackathons? What problems would you solve? Let's say, I really ask this question a lot. Let's say you have unlimited funding right now. What would you build in AI and healthcare?
So if you look at today, right, you choose any lifestyle disease, okay? I would definitely do something on the lifestyle diseases. Okay?
Lifestyle disease, for example?
So cancer, or like diabetes, right? These are all lifestyle diseases. So basically, if you are not eating healthy stuff, you are not working out well, so, and because of the lifestyle, right, we usually don't do this, we start eating junk food. So any of the lifestyle diseases is where I would want to contribute or build my use case around. Okay, that is because these diseases are like there across the world. It's a world's problem. It's not a country specific problem today. So it's a world's problem. So definitely like having a use case built around a lifestyle disease would always shine. So that's how I see it. So it could be like diabetes, it could be like you do anything on the cancer research side. It could be as simple as, just seeing your blood report, right, which you have. So I was recently diagnosed with cholesterol, and I created a chart for my last 10 years of all the records that I had. So I had a habit of scanning my medical records when I was in India. I used to scan it and I used to keep on Google Drive. I converted into a Tableau public. So Tableau is a
open source.
It's not open source, but the public version allows you to freely put your data. So others can see it, but that does not really matter to me at this point. But I wanted to see how my other blood levels or other parameters of the blood were affected over a time. Okay, so other enzymes or other like SGPTs and SGOTs which come along a part of the cholesterol, like there is something called as good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. Like you have something called as triglycerides, and so all of these basically I wanted to see like how they have moved on and how they are going to be like right now as I have. So what I need to do, how I can see them, right? So you have to visualize that.
So this is one example. Like if students want other 10 different product ideas, can you tell them what are the exciting innovations happening in healthcare plus AI industry?
See, innovations are happening every day with every product. Okay. So since I am working in cancer care and cancer research, so I am only focused on that area of my knowledge. But that being interesting, but that won't be accessible for any new person, because the data is little bit limited today. But that does not mean that you don't have access to the data. So there is something called as the drug database. There are drug databases which are available on the website that will give you free access to a lot of this data if you're doing research. there are these various codes in the healthcare, okay, which you get free access to. So you don't need to, they are all open source. So you can get access to most of the codes. You can do something with the codes because the codes define the rules. Okay, so you can do something with that. Then you have access to a lot of the imaging data. So the National Cancer Archives are government backed, and you get a lot of the images there. Anybody, right? So anybody wants to detect, like, maybe they want to detect some lifestyle diseases, like it could be diabetic, it could be COVID, it could be influenza, it could be anything, right? So they can use these images to detect, right? So it's like a painter, right? So you first have to imagine. So that is one of the, I would say, one of the ways how I see a data scientist is. So a data scientist is like a painter. So you have to first imagine what you want to paint, convert your imagination into goals, and then work upon those goals based on what you have today, right? So you have the data, you have algorithms, you have large language models, right? So you have all these different tools to work on with. But that vision is very important, right? Where how you are imagining or how you want to paint your picture, and then show it to the world.
So basically, using the data, like one example you shared about, like, visualizing your data, like cholesterol data on Tableau, and predicting and like making use of it ki my X steps are leading to Y results. Basically, kya karne se kya hota hai? And this is one. And other is like you can pick any open source data from Kaggle and use that and see what correlations and causations can help you predict the future.
Yes. Not only that, you can even pick a newer use case, like based on these free data that is already available in these archives, right? You can also have access to them, and you can take any use case, take a data set and work on that. That is also a way to go.
So use example batana, like take a new use case. And
so let's say you want to do something on, detecting whether a fracture is a major fracture or it's a minor fracture on a bone. Okay, so for that you need x-rays. So you can get these x-ray images of femur bone from these archives easily, and then you can start building your use case. Maybe it can be a $1 million business at the end of the day.
Yeah, mind my example. So
it's not so, as I said, right, imagination is your limitation. Like, as long as you can imagine a use case in healthcare, it's going to shine. It has to be just realistic. You cannot say that I am the god, I make decisions on what happens.
So you especially work on, like, cancer, breast cancer, and this is your like deeper expertise. So this is your like deeper expertise. So my question from your expertise would be like, so do you think all the cancers that exist right now can be cured with AI and machine learning one day?
No.
No.
AI and machine learning can give you ways of how to cure it, but ultimately the cure stands in the so basically the therapies, right? The different therapies that are out there in the market. So AI and machine learning will act as a catalyst to make it faster, to make it on time, so that that patient can survive. But what will make, so we cannot replace AI with medical science. So medical science cannot be replaced by AI. Okay.
It just can accelerate.
It can accelerate, it can act as a catalyst. But the therapies and everything, that has to be researched and that has to be worked upon. Right? So for example, the COVID vaccines, right? You cannot use AI to cure a COVID without a vaccination.
So science remains science. AI just accelerate things.
Yes.
What is like AI can do research for you.
Yes.
But it cannot change science which exists. For example, photosynthesis. It remains same.
Exactly.
There will not be a new photosynthesis.
No. But you can definitely use AI to make that photosynthesis rate higher or lower based on how you create the environment.
Excellent.
Right? So that's how I can tell today. Also, you can see that these therapies, right? So when you are treating a cancer, you have to either go with one of the traditional therapies which are out there in the market today, or maybe a cancer trial, right? A clinical trial which is happening. So clinical trials are something that happens that for the new medicines and which are not out in the market and which is not being tested on many people. So there are clinical trials, or you go with the traditional therapies like a chemotherapy or a radiation therapy or a surgical therapy, or it could be like a immunotherapy, right, which is targeted gene therapy, we also call it. So immunotherapy is the most expensive one, then is the radiation oncology. The cheaper ones are the surgical and the chemotherapies.
So what do you think a lifespan of human being is going to increase by with AI? Like someone has a life expectancy of 77 to 78 in the US and Canada. Do you think it can reach 88?
Not every factor, like AI will be able to change. But what I believe is that uh, it also depends on that individual, right? How the individual's lifestyle is. Okay. So I would say there will be some impact, but at this point, I cannot say that there will be a huge amount of impact. Okay. So mostly, like if you look at the drug discoveries today, right, how the drugs are being discovered using the help of machine learning and AI, definitely like that would lead to a better drug that would be like more effective. But on the same side, it is not necessary that those effective drug will increase our lifespan, right? They can have lot of toxicities that can reduce our lifespan also.
Oh, so
Right.
interesting. So it's a gamble.
Yeah, at this point it is very difficult to say that AI will be, always it will be good, but definitely it will be doing a betterment of, or accelerating the process of these drug discoveries. But it's just we are reducing the time, and that is very crucial when it comes for like specifically for cancer like treatment, right? Time is of like high essence for anybody, like for the doctors, for the clinicians, even for the patient, right? To which stage of cancer that patient is in, it's very important and it's very crucial. So maybe days apart that can lead to a different stage.
100%.
Yeah.
Another interesting question will be, let's say AI discovers a cancer pattern, which is a false positive. Who gets the responsibility? AI company or like the healthcare company?
Realistically, I would say that wherever there is in healthcare specifically, if you are coming up with an algorithm, okay, any type of algorithm, right? The algorithm doesn't make the decision, the end decision, okay? So let's say if your algorithm is creating a treatment plan for a patient, that has to be approved by a doctor at the end of the day.
Okay, so that
it is not a decision making tool right now, at least with the level of the technology and the level of hardware and compute that is available today. It is not possible that AI can take their own decision, right? So it has to be approved by someone. So a doctor who has approved has to go through that. It may be that the plan that takes like 3 days or 2 days, it can be done in like hours. The like AI can recommend plans in hours, but the thing is that it has to be approved. A doctor cannot just blindly approve it. So the doctor has to go through it, decide upon, okay, like plan A looks better than plan B, then go with plan A. Okay, so it is still like that in healthcare, at least it is like that.
So what strategies do you use for data integrations with multiple sources, for example EHRs, wearables, genomics?
So usually wearables and genomics are totally different type of data. We don't usually use that much. Like at least I don't use much. So the data that I mostly use are the EHR, like electronic health records or electronic medical records, either way you say. And usually we use DICOM data. So across. So if you ask me, like as a data scientist, what comes to my mind is we usually rely on the interfaces. So there are health interfaces, protocols, you can say, like you have HTTP, right? So in the world of healthcare there is HL7 and FHIR. So these interfaces help us to communicate between the two EMRs or EHRs in that case, and this actually helps us to stitch the data. So that's how we do it. So HL7 is health level 7, and FHIR is a newer version of that HL7.
Sure.
It's a really nice thing. So I recently have been working on that, and it's an amazing tool. So it gives you access to a lot, like to the world of data, right? So basically you're going, let's say, to a hospital A today in US, and then you go to a hospital B. So hospital B already has all your hospital A's information, right?
Wow.
That happens just because of this interface.
Excellent. So that is the interface, connecting data and like supplying and having a common interface which has all the data from different sources.
Yes.
And that's excellent. So I want to share the viewers that you love to solve problems every day with technology. I have seen you have automated your entire house with Raspberry Pi, whether it's fridge अगर खुला छोड़ जाता है, fridge खुला रह जाता है, then you have automated with your IoT technologies connected with Raspberry Pi on your server. It's just mind-blowing. So what technologies, especially in healthcare and overall in AI, surprise you and fascinate you?
So I would say that
and excite you.
Yeah, I am a learner, so I really like to learn new technologies, and I like to think, in a smarter way. So I am not a, I am someone who wants to work smarter than work harder. So when it comes to things like taking tension of the whole house, I have given that tension to an algorithm or a device today, and that's how I have freed up my brain. So there is a lot of tension in the house, right? A daily, people who are the daily chores are a big example, right? So you need to turn off your lights on time. You need to turn on the blinds, you have to turn it off and turn it on, put the blinds up, blinds down. So all of these things, right? So I wanted to explore this, and I wanted to always learn new technologies. So that is one thing which inspires me, learning new technologies, learning new platforms. So IoT was totally new for me. So what has most fascinated me is how my learnings, I have passed out of Pune University, and back in the days we used to have something called as graph theory and neural network. Okay, so I was fascinated that as I grew older, I was able to see the applications of these two come into my daily life. Okay, and that was the most fascinating thing, that what I learned was actually being used. Because when the history, geography, and whatever we learn in our high schools and back in the days, they are ultimately you forget, you don't really make use of that. But here, maths, physics, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and the most important, the neural network and the graph theory which I have learned, was really helped me understanding or transition from a normal software engineer to a data scientist.
Fascinating. So what AI models and technologies you believe in right now, which are going to change the world?
So definitely transformers were one of that, one of the phases which totally has, today it has totally changed the game. And where I feel going forward is all about reinforcement learning. So today even you see even DeepSeek. So DeepSeek uses today a mixture of experts, right? And that is something it's a combination of reinforcement learning and transformers working together. And that's where I feel reinforcement learning is something that is going to change the future of AI. And that is already changing. Right now it is changing as we speak, but definitely it will have more significance going forward. So going forward, manual feeding of data will be converted, replaced by sensor based data. So that's what I feel.
Sensor,
yeah.
Example batana iska.
So for example, today, right, every day I turn on and off a switch manually. Okay, then what you did, you just bought a new Amazon Echo and you started giving voice commands. Okay, then you felt okay, I was doing manually, but now I have to speak. So you have eased your effort from going and walking there, turning off the switch, to a voice command. But then you think why I don't put a motion sensor, right? And that will automatically trigger that switch whenever I come inside my room, right? So you have done now an end-to-end. So you have replaced your manual input with an automated input. So that's what the reinforcement learning agents would be doing going forward. So it will be I feel it will be like a combination of the knowledge that we are gathering using large language models and feeding into a reinforcement learning network.
So more agentic flows.
More agentic flows, yeah.
So I think that's what you're saying. So that's where biggest innovation is going to happen.
Absolutely.
So in healthcare also, if people watching this can go out and like connect the dots of two existing AI models or existing technologies and make it faster, it has big application. Awesome. I think, thank you so much. You covered all my exciting questions in AI, healthcare, a lot of things changing, a lot of things accelerating now.
Yes.
And yeah, any final advice you want to give?
Just keep motivated and keep on working towards healthcare and AI. And I would say, like, the more new brains come into the, the game, the better are, that we start innovation, like innovating new ideas, and we start to have a larger lifespan, right? And also, like, it's bad, but we lose people, right, which are very dear and near to us. So definitely, like, if the work we do impacts their lives, there is nothing like it in the world.
100%.